Welcome. I'm going to take a look at one of these last videos. I will do a couple of live ones on Firefly, but I will begin again with the params and run through all the ribbon nodes. What I have here is a in-depth look at the surface section under subdivision, and these 6 nodes and how to get them up and running. I'll show you where I begin because I do it every time. My little daughter's awake and she's homesick today, so we're going to run over all these nodes. Mesh from subdivision, mesh from subdivision from mesh, multiply will be where we focus, subdivision control polygon, subdivision edges, and subdivision fuse in the end. Once again, I used a very familiar script coming out of Christev where I enjoy grabbing a mesh or grabbing a surface that's generated by this kind of mathematical formula. I really enjoy it. Kind of wish it was a plugin in and of itself to control meshes. It's probably worth making into one. Maybe I convince Daniel to do that. What ends up happening is I take that surface and I went in over here, and like I said, my bifocal seems to have defaulted out on all of these things. So we'll start with that surface and do a weld mesh. We then will take, I think I pulled this from How to Rhino video, which came out with subdivisions, and it's basically showing how they teach how to use subdivisions. So it's just to disseminate the information. Naked vertices can be thought about and found, so you can go from outputting the numbers of the clothed index, the naked index, the clothed index, and then the naked points. And those are the naked points within that welded mesh of what actually is. I don't even know why I'm using naked vertices. I guess they did it just to show a point. The subdivision is pretty simple. You just take what you existed as the mesh, and turn that mesh into a subdivision from mesh. Not too hard. And then subdivision edges, you can take a look at what those are, which are really nice, and it will give you a nice breaking down of whether it's a greased edge or a smooth interior. You take those curves, you take those edges, so you're gathering your geometries very nicely, really nicely written algorithms. And then this match pattern tool I've never used before, and it's a great example of like finding, okay, which ones would actually have called the creases, which ones would have the smooth, which ones would call out the naked, and which ones would call the interiors. Just a wonderful example of the subdivision nodes, and I just want to bring it out there and then looking at your data. Joining those curves, of course, we are passing by these curves, which I just lost. They're there. We're using those further along the line. I'm basically going to use those curves and pipe them and take a custom preview off of that, but let's continue into the next section, which is a multi-pipe tool, being able to take it all, and if you look on in, it'd be extremely difficult to model in Rhino and get this perfectly figured out by static modeling. We'll do a quick bake. I probably don't need the group, and there it is. Take off my Grasshopper. What beautiful, elegant, exquisite form. So subdivision is something to come to and finish up with. What else have I done? Let's go over here. And let's grab that subdivision, which we created from last time. And I think we pulled it out of the subdivision from mesh. The mesh from subdivision can be generated really beautifully. Another one of the nodes, you can take a look at the mesh edges and break that down into what you want. All the elements of it, and then pass that on along the curves and move that all the way along to merge it so I actually get the edges. But there's a bunch of stuff happening between that. One was the mesh boundaries. Discontinuity was being checked. List items was a way to separate that, and I decided I would build this kind of crosshatch pattern, which they did as a pattern, and then interpolating between those 2 points, joining those curve by curve intersections again, because you're actually playing off of that surface, and then I'm shattering those in 2 different directions, my merged results, and then my endpoints again into a line to bring them together and merge them back into this form. Very interesting, kind of strange shape. If I start to have a look at what data I'm doing for Weaverbird, it's exactly what ends up happening to build this over to the Weaverbird thicket. Once again, through the Cadmill Clark. You'll recognize that algorithm I just went through is one that Alfonso Paluzzo had shared earlier in another series. So going down here, what else has I done with the subdivision mesh? I was able to find a subdivision mesh. They were able to use it as a list value to have a stream filter to which ones you actually wanted. So that was pretty nice. Just a really good control over what the subdivision nodes are doing and what geometries are being grabbed. Now down here it was totally separate. I decided I'd start with a point system. which is around here somewhere. Pretty simple, 81, 81, 81. I've got a point dancing around somewhere. I have a point dancing around somewhere else. I've created 2 planes and put a center box on each one of those. It's just to orient 2 boxes. Nothing too tricky, but to move them around. But they have a lot of control as to where those things would move, how big they would end up being. So as I get into them, the mesh box that's created, because I do need a mesh to deal with, can be put through a subdivision fuse. And you'll see how that actually is a Boolean option of union and then intersection, I think. I'll just have to check it. Let's just check what those are actually called. They're intersection, then A minus B and B minus A. So I'm going to leave them in a Boolean union, which is the initial one, 0. And then I'm able to have a smoothing factor on that, and you can see exactly how it ends up happening. I'm coloring null items that might be in there. And the subdivision on this one, subdivision on this one, melding up the 2 as to how they would end up being. So nice use of every node. Now that script should really be walked through. You should take your time to watch the video and learn how to Rhino through that. A lot of information in there. The script's here in case you want to get to it without having to build it or if you're having trouble with it. And once again, I do like to give Damon Christev. Anytime I'm working in meshes, I actually default back to that gorgeous algorithm of building this one.